Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one I'd like to take a look at a new Cinderace EX that was revealed, and this was indeed the last of the leaked cards to be revealed. So we had Terrapagos, Galvantula, Cinderace, and Lapras that were leaked about a month or two back now, so been a wee bit of a while, but yeah, long time coming, but we have seen the other cards now. So Cinderace was only a matter of time, but what we didn't have revealed was the Scorbunny and Reboot, so we could at least speculate on what these cards could do to help the deck. Sadly, these cards don't do anything. Reboot doing 60 damage for 3 energy is like something out of the black and white era, which is a bit tragic, but hey, at least the artwork is really nice. So yeah, got that to look forward to. And Scorbunny isn't like a super tanky Pokemon, so having 70 HP does mean you can use Buddy Poffin. So yeah, that's a plus side. But of course, the main meat of today's video is Cinderace EX. So this is, for all intensive purposes, a Terra Stellar Pokemon. So 320 HP Fire type, has 2 attacks, Flare Strike and Garnet Volley. Flare Strike, I definitely think, is the better of the 2 attacks for a Fire Double Colorless, so can be paid for using Fire Double Turbo. But you might not want to do that, and we'll explain more in a second. But Flare Strike does 280, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Flare Strike. However, Cinderace does have 0 retreat cost. So if you've got multiple of these, or at least a pivot, then you could just like start retreating and switching and, bouncing around different Pokemon basically to use Flare Strike. And it's also worth mentioning, if you really wanted to, you could play a switch into an Iron Valiant and then retreat Iron Valiant for an extra 2 damage counters, or, just do something like that basically. So yeah. So that's Flare Strike, and we'll talk more about its damage in a second. We also have Garnet Volley, which for a fire-fighting Dark does 180 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So a pretty strong sniping effect. You can KO stuff like Squawkabilly and the minion, as well as draw engines like Bebarrel and Kirlia. But honestly, 3 different energy is a wee bit expensive. I know Flare Strike is 3 energy technically, but things with Garnet Volley is 180 is just not a lot of damage to be doing in this day and age, especially not when Mana Feast's not going to rotate until next rotation next year. So yeah, a bit of a way off yet. So honestly, I don't see Garnet Volley being a great attack. We do have the Mirage Gate engine, which will probably be the best way of accelerating this to do Garnet Volley. But truth be told, I just think Flare Strike is a much better attack to be building a deck around. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't use both these attacks in a Lost Zone deck, but, I can just see this deck being significantly better with other things, like Double Turbo Arceus Magma Basin comes to mind. It might be too much, like maybe Charizard could play this, but even then that's also a wee bit inconsistent because you're making room for yet another Stage 2 line, which doesn't add that much to the deck. But yeah, at the same time, Flare Strike is just doing a lot of damage. Like 280 is a lot to be throwing out. Like sure enough, Double Turbo will take it down to 260, but you have stuff like Iron Valiant. You could even get Mochi and Brute Barnet involved if you really wanted to make this do crazy damage. And to be honest, while I'm here, I may as well mention this. To be honest, when I first saw this card, I was like, wait, there's no way this is real, right? 280 is absurd. But then again, recent card design has been pointing towards an increase in damage. And one thing I will say is, I have no idea where the future of the game is going, because how do you top this? How do you keep making interesting cards that people want to buy, at least from a producer point of view, and getting consumers to buy cards? How do you keep going with this? How do you make bigger Pokemon with bigger attacks and more HP? Are we heading towards 400 HP Pokemon? Sometimes it does feel like it, because we're already at the point where even I'll just use Conkeldurr as an example, but there's a bunch of other Pokemon that fit the bill here. But so look at Conkeldurr, right? He's got 108 HP. He does 250 damage for 4 energy. But if he's affected by a special condition, right, Conkeldurr can use its attack for free. That's a lot of damage to be doing for 0 energy, and a pretty easy condition to fulfill. But Conkeldurr is not a competitive deck, and it's already doing way more damage than its HP, and doesn't even need to play any energy. So that should put into some perspective how crazy the damage has gotten in this game, especially in regards to HP and such. So I'm just not sure. Are we heading towards a stage 1 mechanic that has 300 plus HP? I mean, maybe, is like the next mechanic in the Scarlet and Violet era going to be that? Because what have we had? We had in the Sun and Moon era, we had GX Pokemon, then tag teams, which were like much bigger GX Pokemon, I guess. Then we had VMAX into V Star in the Sword and Shield era. And then that makes you wonder what they're going to do for Scarlet and Violet. Is it going to be Mega Evolution? Well, that doesn't really work with the different, stages of evolution of EX Pokemon. They're not all basics. There are stage 1, stage 2s as well. So I'm not sure how that would work technically. They could use Level X, like maybe they bring back Level X or something. Or maybe like a Pokemon Break kind of style mechanic where you get an extra attack or ability and like a ton more HP, and then maybe you're now a Roblox Pokemon. They could do something like that, right? As an extra mechanic. If they don't bring back Mega Evolution soon, then, I wonder what they're doing. So I think they will bring back Megas to the game at some point. But yeah, either way, it's fun to speculate, but doing 280 is a lot, I kind of miss the days when Pokemon would just 2-hit KO each other, and there was maybe a handful of 1-hit KO decks, because otherwise, Flare Strike, if you're paying 3 basic energy to do this, with 1 modifier or 2, you could probably KO, other stage 2 Pokemon, which is kind of wild, it is kind of wild, so it will be a fun card, though, to play, though. It does look like a lot of fun. Like Iron Valiant, Double Turbos, Arceus could be a lot of fun. It might be just a wee bit too clunky, and this card does look a bit worse, I would say, than Dragapult, and, Dragapult's not super, super great. But either way, it's a fun card, definitely a good card for Lost Zone and stuff, like this just is the colors of Lost Zone. Like Fire, Radiant Charizard, Dark for Roaring Moon, and then Fighting, I guess, for... Well, you could play the Fighting Mask Ogre for some Charizard countering, I guess. So yeah, it's kind of cool. But yeah, Manaphy existing is kind of like the bane of this card's existence right now. But, either way, Flare Strike, it's a lot of damage. It is a lot of damage. It's just a shame that the pre-evolutions aren't adding anything to the deck. Also have this Zeraora that we can quickly take a look at. It's nothing too crazy. It's kind of just like what this person said down here, which was we have Raikou V at home. Very, very accurate. It's 20 damage and then 20 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, which is fine. I think this is a perfectly acceptable card in something like Miraidon and I guess maybe Future Hands or something like that. But, either way, it's nothing too crazy. Pretty good for GLC. But yeah, it's nothing wild. We do, however, have worth mentioning is the Flamigo from, I think it's Paradox Rift, that has a very similar attack that's for fighting energy instead. And then we also have the more recent Ogerpon, which is essentially just the grass version of this. So maybe they are kind of like pushing this luminous counter deck. We have like Crispin as well now to accelerate a different energy from the deck and then search your deck for a different energy as well. So like it could be they're trying to push this Crispin basic deck that can hit all sorts of different weaknesses. That could be kind of cool. But, this kind of deck would just get absolutely decimated by the opponent saying, well, you're going to do that? Well, I'm not going to bench anything, pretty much. So, that kind of sucks. So maybe it's just more of a niche one-off that you can throw into your decks if Lugia becomes busted again. But yeah, it's still a cool card, though. Like, it's nice to see it. But yeah, Cinderace, either way, I think is interesting. It's doing a lot of damage, so it has potential, but, it's the fact that Double Turbo might reduce Flare Strike. That's a bit annoying. You'd have to use Magma Basin and Magma Attachments, and Garnet Volley, Manaphy exists. So, yeah, interesting. I'm very curious to see what mechanic they reveal at World Championships. I'm very excited to see what they reveal. But yeah, it's been Ember Power. Let me know what you think down below. And yeah, thank you for watching.